Howdy, awesome people, and welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into this wild ride of a story, do me a solid, smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And while you're at it, drop a comment below telling me what you think. And share this video with anyone who needs a dose of sweet, sweet karma. You guys are the best, and every single one of your clicks helps us keep bringing you these incredible tales. The look on Tiffany's face? Oh, it was worth every single second of the 10 years I spent plotting this moment. Her perfectly painted red lips trembled as she stared at the foreclosure notice on her precious McMansion, the one she'd bought with my inheritance money. But here's the real kicker. While she's being evicted from her dream home, I'm sitting pretty in a $4.2 million Victorian mansion that she never even knew existed. And the absolute best part? She's about to waste her last dollars trying to sue me for it. Karma, as they say, is a patient mistress. Let me take you back to where this all began. I was 14 when my mom, Eleanor, died from an aggressive form of cancer, diagnosis to death in just 8 months. Dad, David, was destroyed, and so was I. But Tiffany, she saw an opportunity. She was Dad's new legal secretary, all legs and sympathy, armed with tight skirts and tissues for his tears. Within a year of Mom's death, she'd secured a perfect platinum ring on her finger and a place in our home in Greenwood, Indiana. I still remember the first red flag. It was during the wedding reception. When she thought no one was watching, I caught her in Dad's study, rifling through his financial documents. When I confronted her, she just laughed it off, claiming she was just trying to understand the family finances to be a better wife. I was 14, not stupid, but who would believe a teenager's suspicions over the tears of a concerned new stepmother? That's when I learned my first lesson in revenge. Patience is everything. Tiffany was smart, I'll give her that. She never went for the obvious play. There were no wicked stepmother cliches of making me clean floors or missing meals. No, her game was far more subtle. She was death by 1,000 cuts, each one so small that explaining it made me sound paranoid. It started with forgetting to tell me about family dinner plans, leaving me to eat alone while they dined at fancy restaurants in downtown Indianapolis. Then came the scheduling conflicts. My father-daughter weekend plans mysteriously colliding with her pre-planned events that couldn't be rescheduled. Every time I tried to talk to Dad about it, she was there, spinning my words into teenage drama. "Oh, David," she'd say, her voice dripping with concern. "Chloe's just having trouble adjusting. It's normal for teenagers to act out after trauma." She made my valid concerns sound like the tantrums of a troubled child. But here's where Tiffany made her fatal mistake. She underestimated my mother's family, particularly my grandfather. While she was busy playing the perfect wife, I was spending weekends with my maternal grandparents in their cozy home in Bloomington, Indiana, learning about family trusts, property law, and the importance of playing the long game from my grandfather, Judge Arthur Sterling, a retired judge who'd seen more gold diggers than a California prospector. On my 16th birthday, while Tiffany was convincing my father to invest in her brother's foolproof business venture, which, surprise, went bankrupt 2 years later, my grandfather gave me the gift that would eventually become Tiffany's undoing. The Victorian mansion on Willow Creek Lane in Carmel, Indiana, placed in an ironclad trust that even my father couldn't touch. "Keep this quiet," Grandfather advised, his eyes twinkling with the wisdom of someone who'd spent 40 years watching people try to outsmart the law. "Sometimes the best card is the one you never show." And quiet I kept it. Through the next 8 years, I watched Tiffany's manipulation masterpiece unfold. She isolated Dad from his old friends, claiming they were stuck in his grief and he needed to move forward. She convinced him to move our family photos to the attic because they were holding us in the past. Each move was calculated, designed to erase Mom's memory and strengthen her hold on Dad's heart and his wallet. By the time I graduated college at Purdue University, Tiffany had succeeded in her ultimate goal, convincing my father to rewrite his will. I discovered this during his final days as cancer, the same cruel thief that took my mother, came to claim him too. Tiffany made sure to tell me, with that fake sympathy smile plastered on her face, that I had been completely cut out. "It's for the best, dear," she said, patting my hand with her French manicured talon. "Your father was so disappointed in how you turned out. All that resistance to our new family dynamic, it broke his heart." What she didn't know was that every single family dynamic conversation had been recorded over the years. Every manipulation, every subtle dig, every orchestrated conflict, all documented and dated, building a pattern that any half-decent lawyer would salivate over. So here we are, 10 years after she first stepped into our lives. Tiffany's sitting in her lawyer's office in downtown Chicago, preparing to sue me for the Victorian mansion she just discovered I own. She's convinced it must have been part of Dad's estate, hidden away somewhere she hadn't looked. The irony is delicious. She's about to spend the last of her money, my inheritance, on a lawsuit that's not only doomed to fail, but will expose every single one of her manipulations. The best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with impeccable timing and irrefutable evidence. And as I sit here in my grandfather's study in Carmel, watching the sunset paint the Victorian stained glass windows in shades of amber and crimson, I can't help but smile. Tiffany's about to learn that karma doesn't just knock. Sometimes it brings a whole legal team and a foreclosure notice. The game is far from over, but the first move? That's been 10 years in the making, and it's absolutely perfect. As predicted, Tiffany's lawsuit landed on my desk exactly 3 days after she discovered my ownership of the Victorian mansion. Her lawyer, a sleazy ambulance chaser named Leo Sterling, had the audacity to demand an immediate response to their time-sensitive legal inquiry regarding misappropriated estate assets. I couldn't have scripted it better myself. What Tiffany doesn't realize is that every move she's making now was choreographed years ago, back when she thought she was the only one playing chess. While she was busy orchestrating my exile from my father's life, I was documenting every single manipulation, every calculated gesture, every coincidental scheduling conflict that kept me from spending time with Dad. The beauty of Tiffany's manipulation was always in its subtlety. Take, for instance, the Christmas of 2016. I was 19 and home from college for the holidays. Dad had promised to continue our tradition of watching It's a Wonderful Life on Christmas Eve, just like we'd done with Mom. Tiffany waited until December 23rd to announce she'd already committed them to her sister's destination Christmas party in Aspen, Colorado. "Oh, Chloe, honey," she cooed, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "I thought your father told you about the change of plans." You know how important family traditions are to me. The irony of her destroying our family tradition while preaching about their importance wasn't lost on me. But I played my part perfectly. I acted disappointed but understanding, just as I had dozens of times before. What Tiffany never noticed was the small recording device in my jacket pocket, capturing every word of her performance. It wasn't just that conversation. I had hundreds of hours of similar interactions, all meticulously dated and cataloged. Dad's gradual transformation under Tiffany's influence was like watching a masterclass in psychological manipulation. She never criticized me directly to him. Instead, she mastered the art of the concerned observation. "David, I'm worried about Chloe. Did you notice how she barely spoke to your colleagues at the firm dinner?" Of course, she had conveniently forgotten to tell me about the dress code, leaving me embarrassingly underdressed and self-conscious. Or my personal favorite. "Darling, I hate to mention this, but I saw Chloe's car outside that questionable bar on Main Street." She neglected to mention that the questionable bar was actually the coffee shop where I tutored underprivileged kids. A fact she well knew, as she'd seen me there numerous times. Each manipulation was subtle enough that calling her out made me look paranoid or oversensitive. To Dad, they painted a picture of a troubled daughter acting out, while Tiffany emerged as the patient, understanding stepmother trying to hold the family together. But Tiffany's greatest talent was her ability to isolate Dad from anyone who might see through her act. One by one, his old friends stopped coming around. His sister, my Aunt Brenda, was gradually pushed to the periphery of our lives after she questioned Tiffany's motives one too many times. "It's just that they're stuck in the past, David," Tiffany would say, massaging Dad's shoulders as she planted her poisonous thoughts. "They can't accept that you found happiness again. It's not healthy for you or for Chloe to keep dwelling in grief." The real masterstroke came when she convinced Dad to sell our old house, the one full of memories with Mom in Fishers, Indiana, and move into a gaudy McMansion in the newly developed part of Zionsville, Indiana. A fresh start, she called it. What it really meant was erasing every trace of my mother from our daily lives. But while Tiffany was busy rewriting our family history, I was building an airtight case against her. Every lost invitation to family events, every misplaced message from Dad, every unfortunate scheduling conflict was documented. My grandfather's lessons in patience and preparation were about to pay off. The day Tiffany's lawyer served me with the lawsuit, I was ready. My own legal team, handpicked by my grandfather before his passing, had been reviewing the evidence for months. Every recorded conversation, every manipulative email, every suspicious financial transaction had been analyzed and organized into a devastating counter-narrative. Now, as I watched Tiffany strut into her lawyer's office through the cafe window across the street in downtown Chicago, I can't help but admire her confidence. She still thinks she's the puppet master, completely unaware that her strings were cut long ago. Her designer handbag, bought with my inheritance money, swings carelessly as she disappears into the building. The meeting today is just a preliminary discussion about her lawsuit, but it's also the beginning of her downfall. My lawyer will be presenting our initial response, which includes just a taste of the evidence we've accumulated. It's enough to make them nervous, but not enough to show our full hand. Tiffany's about to learn the first rule of karma: what goes around comes around, with compound interest. As I sip my coffee and check my watch, I know exactly what's happening 11 floors up in that law office. Tiffany's carefully constructed world is about to develop its first crack. By the time we're done, those cracks will become canyons, and her perfectly crafted facade will crumble into dust. The real dance is just beginning, and I've had 10 years to perfect my steps. The preliminary meeting went exactly as planned. My lawyer, Attorney Grace Holloway, a shark in a Chanel suit, just sent me the surveillance photos of Tiffany leaving her attorney's office. Gone was the confident strut from this morning. Instead, she practically staggered to her Mercedes, her perfectly coiffed hair now disheveled from running her fingers through it countless times during the meeting. The first crack in her armor has appeared, right on schedule. What Tiffany doesn't understand yet is that while she was busy playing checkers with my father's estate, I was playing three-dimensional chess. Every move I've made since I was 16 has been building to this moment. The Victorian mansion she's so desperately trying to claim is just the tip of the iceberg. My grandfather, in his infinite wisdom, didn't just give me a property, he gave me an education in patience and strategy. During those weekly dinners at his house in Bloomington, while Tiffany thought I was just a sulking teenager avoiding family time, I was learning about property law, trust funds, and the intricate dance of high-stakes litigation. The key to winning any battle, my grandfather would say, sipping his evening scotch, is making your opponent think they're winning until the very moment they lose. Those words became my mantra as I built my case against Tiffany. While she was redecorating our family home for the third time in 5 years, I was graduating summa cum laude from law school at Indiana University, Maurer School of Law. While she was convincing my father to invest in her sister's failed organic smoothie franchise, I was securing internships at top firms in New York City, building a network that would prove invaluable. Every time she excluded me from a family event, I was actually attending seminars on estate law and financial forensics. The Victorian mansion itself is a masterpiece of legal engineering. My grandfather set up the trust with 3 layers of protection, each triggered by specific attempts to contest ownership. Tiffany's lawsuit just activated the first layer, a detailed documentation of the property's history that proves it was never part of my father's estate. But that's not the brilliant part. The brilliant part is that each attempt to challenge the trust triggers an automatic review of the challenger's financial dealings with the estate. In other words, Tiffany's lawsuit has just given us legal grounds to examine every financial decision she influenced in my father's last years. And oh, what a treasure trove that will be. I pull out my tablet and review the preliminary findings our forensic accountant, Mr. Davies, uncovered. There's the investment in her brother's tech startup that mysteriously folded after receiving $250,000 from my father's retirement fund. The series of jewelry purchases that coincidentally matched the exact amounts of my college fund installments. The second mortgage on our family home that funded her sister's revolutionary wellness center, now a defunct strip mall in the bad part of Muncie, Indiana. But my favorite discovery is still to come. Hidden in the maze of shell companies and transferred assets is a pattern that even Tiffany doesn't know we've uncovered. Every major financial decision she influenced had a hidden beneficiary, a holding company registered in the Cayman Islands. A holding company that, according to our investigations, is owned by none other than Tiffany's first husband, Richard Stone, the one she claimed was ancient history. I take another sip of my coffee and open the secure email from Grace. The surveillance photos show Tiffany making a frantic phone call in her car, probably to that same ex-husband. She doesn't realize it yet, but that call will be her second mistake of the day. My phone buzzes. A text from Leo Sterling, Tiffany's lawyer. We need to discuss settlement options. I allow myself a small smile. They've seen enough to know they're in trouble, but not enough to realize how deep that trouble goes. I think about my father's last days, how Tiffany managed to keep me away from the hospital in Indianapolis until it was almost too late. When I finally got to see him, he was barely conscious, but his last words to me weren't the disappointed declarations Tiffany had claimed were in his letter. Instead, he squeezed my hand and whispered, "You're so much like Eleanor." Stronger than anyone knows. He was right. I am like my mother, but I'm also my grandfather's student. While Tiffany was playing at being the grieving widow, I was executing a plan years in the making. The Victorian mansion isn't just a property, it's a trap, and Tiffany walked right into it. I send a one-word response to Leo. Monday. The weekend will give Tiffany time to panic, to make more mistakes, to reach out to people she shouldn't contact. Every move she makes now only strengthens our case. By Monday, the second layer of the trust protection will activate, triggering an automatic audit of all estate transactions from the past 10 years. From my office window in the Victorian mansion in Carmel, I can see the garden my mother used to love. The roses she planted are still blooming, tended now by the same gardener who cared for them when I was a child. Tiffany tried to have him fired from maintaining Dad's new property, claiming his services were too expensive. She never knew he's been working for me all these years, maintaining not just the garden, but also keeping detailed records of every conversation she had during her surprise visits, to inspect the property she thought would one day be hers. The long game isn't just about patience. It's about having pieces in play that your opponent never even knew existed, and my pieces are finally ready to move. Monday arrives with the weight of destiny. I'm sitting in the conference room of Holloway Associates in downtown Chicago, watching Tiffany's carefully constructed world implode through the lens of a PowerPoint presentation. Our forensic accountant, Mr. Davies is methodically walking through 10 years of financial manipulation. With each slide, Tiffany's face loses another shade of color. As you can see, Davies explains, pointing to a complex flowchart, every major withdrawal from Mr. Henderson's accounts between 2015 and 2023 can be traced to one of these 7 shell companies. He clicks to the next slide, and there it is, the smoking gun we've been waiting to reveal. Tiffany's ex-husband's signature, Richard Stone's, clear as day, on incorporation documents for all 7 companies. That's impossible, Tiffany whispers, but her trembling hands betray her. She knows we've caught her. The perfectly crafted narrative of the devoted widow is unraveling, thread by thread. Leo Sterling, her lawyer, looks like he's aged 10 years in the last hour. "We need a brief recess," he manages to croak out. But Grace Holloway, my shark and Chanel, isn't done yet. "Before we break," she says, sliding a thick folder across the table, "you should review this. It's your client's letter to Chloe, supposedly from her father's last days." Grace's smile is razor sharp. "We had it analyzed by a forensic linguist. Would you like to hear their conclusions about its authenticity?" Tiffany's face, already pale, turns almost translucent. The letter, her masterpiece of manipulation, was supposed to be her insurance policy. It was filled with carefully crafted disappointments and regrets, allegedly from my father, explaining why I deserved to be cut out of his will. She had used it like a weapon, reading choice excerpts to family friends, ensuring my isolation was complete. But Tiffany made one crucial mistake. She didn't know about Dad's private journal. I reach into my briefcase and pull out a worn leather notebook. "This," I say, opening it to a marked page, "is my father's actual writing from his last months." Notice the difference in tone, word choice, and most importantly, his true feelings about his daughter. The journal entry I begin to read aloud is from 3 weeks before his death. "Chloe reminds me more of Eleanor every day. She has her mother's strength, her patience. Tiffany worries that Chloe's distance shows resentment, but I see what Eleanor would see. A young woman playing her cards close, just like her mother taught her." I regret letting Tiffany's concerns influence me so much these past years. But Chloe, she's smarter than I was. She's waiting, watching, learning, just like Eleanor would have done. Tiffany's perfectly manicured nails dig into the conference room table. "That journal is a fake," she spits out, but there's panic in her voice now. "The journal has been authenticated," Grace responds smoothly, "as have the recordings." And there it is, the final nail in Tiffany's coffin. Her head snaps up at the word recordings, and for the first time, real fear crosses her face. I pull out my phone and play one of my favorite clips. Tiffany, thinking she's alone in Dad's study, on the phone with her ex-husband, Richard. "David doesn't suspect a thing," her voice crackles through the speaker. "Once the old fool changes his will, we can start moving the bigger assets." The daughter? Please. I've got her painted as such a problem child he barely questions it anymore when she's not around. The recording continues, detailing plans and schemes. Each word, another shovel of dirt on the grave of Tiffany's credibility. By the time it ends, Leo Sterling is openly loosening his tie, likely calculating how fast he can distance himself from this case. There are hundreds of hours of similar recordings, I say quietly. Every manipulation, every lie, every secret phone call. But here's what's really interesting, Tiffany. Would you like to know where the Victorian Mansion's profits have been going all these years? I nod to Grace, who clicks to the final slide. On the screen appears the incorporation documents for the Eleanor Hayes Memorial Center for Child Advocacy, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping children who have lost parents navigate the complexities of blended families and potential exploitation. The center's first case study, I continue, my voice steady, will be a detailed examination of how predatory individuals target grieving families. Your methods will be used to teach counselors and legal professionals the warning signs of systematic manipulation. Tiffany stands so abruptly, her chair topples backward. This is slander. I'll sue you for everything I have. Grace's laugh is gentle but deadly. Miss Henderson, she says, using Tiffany's maiden name as a subtle jab, I don't think you understand. You're not in a position to sue anyone anymore. In fact, she slides another document across the table. This is a notice of criminal investigation. The FBI is very interested in those offshore accounts you and your ex-husband have been managing. As Tiffany sinks back into her shredded chair, I think about my mother's favorite saying, the truth has a way of rising like cream in coffee. For 10 years, I've watched Tiffany stir the pot, keeping everything mixed up and muddied. But now, finally, the truth is rising to the top. The recess is called, and as Tiffany is led out by her visibly shaken lawyer, I remain seated, my mother's journal clutched in my hands. The revelation isn't just about exposing Tiffany's crimes, it's about reclaiming my father's memory, clearing the fog of manipulation that clouded his final years. The game Tiffany thought she was winning has just revealed itself to be something entirely different, and we're not even done yet. 3 weeks after our revelation meeting, I'm standing in front of the Victorian mansion, watching a team of contractors install the new signage, the Eleanor Hayes Memorial Center for Child Advocacy. The morning sun catches the gold lettering, making it shimmer like a beacon of hope, which, ironically, is exactly what Tiffany's actions helped create. The headlines have been relentless. Widow's scheme exposed. Multi-million-dollar estate fraud uncovered. FBI investigates sophisticated inheritance scam. Grieving Children's Center born from family betrayal. Tiffany's fall from grace hasn't just been spectacular, it's been comprehensive. My phone buzzes with a text from Grace. FBI just arrested Richard Stone in Grand Cayman. He's singing like a bird. I allow myself a small smile. Of course he is. Men like him always save themselves first. Tiffany herself was arrested yesterday, trying to board a flight to Zurich, Switzerland with a newly issued passport. The look on her face when the federal agents approached her at the gate at O'Hare International Airport was, according to the security footage Grace obtained, absolutely priceless. All those years of careful manipulation, of calculated moves, undone by plain old panic. But the sweetest victory came this morning with the court's final ruling on my father's estate. Not only was his last will invalidated due to proven undue influence, but Tiffany's own careful documentation of her concerns about my behavior provided the strongest evidence against her. Every email, every noted incident, every carefully worded complaint about my absence at family functions, they all helped establish the pattern of isolation and manipulation she had orchestrated. I walk up the mansion steps, running my hand along the familiar banister. The contractors have done an amazing job renovating the space while preserving its historic character. The front parlor, once a formal sitting room, is now a warm, welcoming reception area. The study where my grandfather taught me patience has been transformed into a cozy counseling room for teenagers. Ms. Hayes? A voice calls from behind me. I turn to see Dr. Anya Sharma, the center's newly hired head counselor. We just received our first referral. A 12-year-old girl whose father recently remarried. She's showing signs of isolation and depression. My heart tightens. I know those signs all too well. Her stepmother, Dr. Sharma continues, consulting her tablet, has been gradually limiting her contact with her maternal grandparents, claiming they're interfering with the new family dynamic. I close my eyes briefly, remembering Tiffany's exact same words from years ago. Make sure the grandparents are involved in the counseling process, I tell Dr. Sharma. They're often the strongest allies these children have. As if on cue, my phone lights up with another update from Grace. Tiffany's plea deal has been finalized. In exchange for a reduced sentence, she's agreed to participate in a comprehensive study of her manipulation techniques. Every tactic, Every strategy, every subtle move she used will be documented and analyzed, creating a blueprint for identifying and preventing similar cases of family exploitation. The irony isn't lost on me. Tiffany's legacy will be helping protect the very people she once targeted. Every child who walks through these doors will benefit from the detailed understanding of her methods. Every family court judge who reads our case study will be better equipped to spot the warning signs. Every counselor who trains here will learn to recognize the subtle patterns of isolation and manipulation. I make my way to what used to be the mansion's library, now converted into a family meeting room. The walls are lined with photographs, not just of my own family, but of all types of family structures. Blended families who made it work, single parents, grandparents raising grandchildren, adoptive families. It's a testament to what family should be, a source of support, not manipulation. My mother's portrait holds a place of honor above the fireplace. Next to it hangs a plaque with her favorite quote, "The truth rises like cream in coffee." Below these, in smaller letters, is the center motto, "Healing hearts, protecting futures." A final text from Grace arrives. Tiffany's McMansion goes up for auction next week. Her lawyer says she's requesting one last visit to collect personal items. Should we allow it? I think about it for a moment, remembering all the times Tiffany denied me access to my childhood home, all the memories she tried to erase. But then I look around at what her actions have helped create, a safe haven for children facing similar struggles, a place of healing and protection. Yes, I text back. Let her say goodbye to what she lost. And Grace, make sure she sees the center's brochure on her way out. She should know what her legacy will really be. As I stand in the warm sunlight streaming through the mansion's stained glass windows, I realize that revenge, properly executed, isn't just about making someone pay for their crimes. Sometimes it's about transforming their darkness into light, their cruelty into compassion, their greed into giving. The sweet taste of justice isn't in Tiffany's downfall. It's in the lives that will be better because we exposed her methods. Every child who finds help here, every family that heals within these walls, every predatory step-parent who gets caught before they cause damage, that's the real victory. Mother would be proud, not of the revenge perhaps, but of what it became. 1 year later, I stand in my grandfather's study, now my private office at the center, holding the last piece of Tiffany's unraveling legacy, her prison memoir. Her publisher sent it for our review, not out of courtesy, but as part of her plea agreement. Any proceeds from the book will go directly to the center's scholarship fund for children affected by estate fraud. The irony of Tiffany's final attempt at manipulation becoming another resource for her victims isn't lost on me. I flip through the pages, noting the spots where she tries to paint herself as misunderstood, a victim of circumstances. But between her lines of self-justification are inadvertent confessions, detailed descriptions of how she identified vulnerable families, how she systematically isolated her targets, how she turned family members against each other. It's a masterclass in manipulation, but not in the way she intended. Dr. Sharma knocks on my door, bringing me back to the present. The new support group is starting, she says softly. I thought you might want to sit in. I follow her to what used to be our formal dining room, now transformed into a comfortable group therapy space. 10 teenagers sit in a circle, each carrying stories that echo my own past. Their faces reflect different stages of the journey I know too well: anger, confusion, grief, and most importantly, hope. A girl who reminds me of my younger self speaks first. My stepmom says I'm being difficult when I want to visit my mom's parents, she says, tears threatening to spill. She says I'm not trying hard enough to be part of the new family. I feel my throat tighten. A year ago, these words would have triggered memories of pain and loss. Now they're a reminder of why this center exists. Your grandparents are your connection to your mother, I tell her, sharing the wisdom my grandfather once gave me. Anyone who tries to sever that connection isn't protecting a new family. They're destroying an existing one. After the session, I returned to my office and opened my mother's journal. The real one, not the fabricated version Tiffany tried to use against me. The pages fall open to my favorite entry, written just months before her diagnosis. My dearest Chloe, if you're reading this, remember that strength isn't just about standing your ground. It's about building something better on it. Whatever life throws at you, find a way to turn it into a foundation for good. That's exactly what we've done. The center has helped over 200 families in its first year. We've trained dozens of family court judges to recognize signs of manipulation. Our research department, funded partly by Tiffany's seized assets, has developed protocols now used nationwide for evaluating potential financial exploitation in blended families. My phone buzzes. A news alert. Tiffany's ex-husband, Richard Stone, has agreed to testify against a network of estate fraud perpetrators he worked with. The dominoes keep falling, each revelation protecting more families from predators like them. I walk to the window, watching as parents and children arrive for afternoon sessions. The Victorian mansion, once a symbol of my quiet resistance, has become a beacon of healing. The gardens my mother loved now provide a peaceful space for families to rebuild trust. The kitchen, where my grandfather taught me patience, hosts cooking therapy sessions for grieving children. A framed newspaper article on my wall catches my attention. From personal vendetta to public service, how one woman's quest for justice changed family counseling. The reporter got it partly right, but they missed the deeper truth. This wasn't just about justice, it was about transformation. Tiffany's last letter arrived yesterday, part of her mandatory rehabilitation program. She wrote about regret, about understanding the damage she caused. Whether her remorse is genuine doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that her story, her techniques, her entire playbook is now being used to help others avoid the same fate. The center's annual report sits on my desk, filled with success stories, children reconnecting with estranged grandparents, families learning to navigate complex emotional territories, courts intervening before manipulation can take root. Each success is a brick in the foundation my mother wrote about. As the sun sets, casting long shadows through the stained glass windows, I think about how revenge transformed into redemption. The money that Tiffany accumulated through years of manipulation now funds scholarships. The techniques she perfected are taught as warning signs. Her pursuit of wealth created a legacy of healing she never intended. My grandfather's chess set still sits in the corner of my office, a reminder that patience and strategy aren't just tools for revenge. They're instruments of change. The long game wasn't just about exposing Tiffany. It was about creating something lasting from the ashes of her deception. Tomorrow, we're launching a new program, free legal clinics for families suspecting financial exploitation. The funding? It comes from the auction of Tiffany's McMansion, sold for twice what she paid for it. Even her greed, in the end, served a greater purpose. I close my mother's journal and look at her picture on my desk. "We did it, Mom," I whisper. "We didn't just expose the darkness, we built something light." Outside, the garden lights flicker on, illuminating the path for evening group sessions. More families arriving, more hearts healing, more futures being protected. This is the true taste of justice, not the fall of the wicked, but the rise of something good from their wreckage. So, what do you guys think about Chloe's epic long game? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories where karma always gets its due. Peace out.